Alrighty, it's your boy the Youngster, so we're back with another Nikke video, and today we are going to be talking about team building, right? I think obviously if you've been playing the game for a while, you've kind of already figured out how to play, but I know with the up and coming collab, there's a lot of new people who are going to be joining Nikke or have already joined Nikke because obviously Chainsaw Man is, a fairly new popular anime. It's obviously not as popular as others, but it is still very, very popular. It's not as popular as JJK, I wouldn't say, but Chainsaw Man definitely is a popular, at least this, 2023 popular anime, right? One of the most popular ones in 2023, we could say. So, we're going to break down team building because it is somewhat important in this game. I think a lot of people forget team building or how it works and all that stuff. So let's go over it very simply. So when it comes to team building in this game, there are multiple ways to build your team, right? And in terms of what characters you put on your team, that's what you got to do to find out. I can't really tell you what characters to put on your team in a sense because I don't know what characters you have, but I can give guidance, right? So obviously don't mind the power, again, 2 months deep, but I went and looked through everything. There didn't add much where it's just the same information I had before, so it's nothing really changed. But as you see, this is my main team right now, right? It has Pepper, Senti, Haran, Mordinia, I think that was her name, and then Rupee, right? But it doesn't matter about the characters. So how you build your team is based off burst, right? So let me go to team 5 where I don't have anything built. So these numbers right here, 1, 2, and 3 are your burst things, and this is very, very important when it comes to building your team, right? In order to get ultimates, right, every character in the game has an ultimate. Now the cooldowns are different for everybody, but every single character in the game has an ultimate, obviously. But it's kind of different in this game than other games. It's actually very different in this game than other games. For example, let's say I love using all these characters here, my burst 3 units. If I put a full team of burst 3 units, I will not be able to use any single ultimates for the simple reason that I can't even get it, right? So how this game works is you need to, it's kind of like a chain reaction, I want to say, right? It's kind of like a chain, right? In order to get any burst 3 ultimate, you have to get a burst 2 ultimate off. And in order to get a burst 2 ultimate off, you have to get a burst 1 ultimate off. And that's how it works, right? So essentially, if you want to get an ultimate for all 3 typings or all 3 of your characters, right? Your burst 1, burst 2, and burst 3, you're going to want to have a burst 1 unit on your team, a burst 2 unit on your team, and then a burst 3 unit on your team, just like this, right? You definitely want to have, that's minimum. Right now, you don't have to have any burst 3. It's kind of a waste if you don't, but you can just do burst 1s and burst 2 and then just cycle ultimates through that. But you cannot have only burst 2s and 3s because you will not get any of their ultimates. You must have a burst 1. A burst 1 unit must be on your team. So again, burst 1 is the one that is the number 1, or I guess an Roman numerals, I believe. And then this it would be 2 and then 3, right? So you want to make sure you go to your I, which is your 1, and you have to have at least one of these characters. Whoever you have, one of them has to be on your team in order to get the other ultimates. Now, can I have a team like this? Burst 1, burst, and then the full burst 3, right? Can I do this? No, I cannot, because how am I going to get the burst 3 ultimate if I don't have a burst 2? So bare minimum, I would just recommend, just so it's safe for everybody, obviously have a burst 1 and a burst 2 unit and then a burst 3 unit, right? At least this is what you want to do. Your last 2 slots is completely up to you, but you got to remember this is where things like cooldowns start to come into play. For example, Helm here, right? Helm here is a character with a 40-second burst cooldown, right? As you see, it says right here, her burst is 40 seconds. I don't know if you can see that, but it says her burst cooldown is 40 seconds. Now, when it comes to other characters, right, these burst 1 units, majority of them, if not every single one of them, have a 20-second cooldown ultimate, right? So, for example, Pepper will use her ultimate 20 seconds, and then her burst 2 unit would have a 20-second as well. You would ideally want that, and I'm going to talk about that in a second here. But your burst 2 character would have a 20-second ultimate, and then your burst 3 character would have a 40-second ultimate. Now, here's the thing. When it rotates again, so once you use all 3 of those ultimates and you rotate again into Pepper and Rupee's ultimate, since they only have 20 seconds, you have an extra 20 seconds remaining before you can use Helm's ultimate. right? So you're gonna want to have another burst 3 unit as well, right? If you plan on having a burst 1, 2, and 3, right, of team like that, then you want to have minimum 2 burst 3 units so that you can cycle between the burst 3 ultimates, if that makes sense, right? So 20 seconds for your burst 1, 20 seconds for your burst 2, and then 40 seconds for your burst 3. But then when it recycles, or when it cycles, it'll be 20, and you have 20 seconds remaining. That's when your second burst 3 character, so let me put Modernia here, her ultimate will then be used, and then it will just cycle like that. So it will be, first cycle would be Pepper, Rupee, and then Helm, and then the second cycle would be Pepper, Rupee, and then Mordinia, or Modernia, I think that's how you say it, right? And then it will just cycle like that. Now, if you're wondering, Zeoxys, what if I had 3 burst units like this? Well, your third burst units, if you have it on auto, whoever your third burst 3 unit will never use their ultimates, because it will just keep cycling between the first 4, right? Just like how I said, Helm, it will go Pepper, Rupee, Helm, and then when it cycles, it'll go Pepper, Rupee, Modernia here, or Modernia here. You will not get your last burst 3 characters thing. And then also, that's how it is for burst 2 and 1. If your burst 2 and your burst 1 characters have 20 seconds on their cooldowns, it's most likely you're not going to be able to use anybody else's burst, like any other burst 1 or 2's ultimate, unless you have it off of auto, which most people don't. Everybody plays it on auto, right? So you gotta keep that in mind, right? So yeah, that's literally team building there, right? Again, you want to have 1 and 2. Like, you could do this if you want, right? For example, you could do this. This is not a problem because you have the burst 1, right? You must have a burst 1 on your team. You have to. If you don't, you will not get the ultimate. So keep that in mind. Like, forget about burst 2 and 3. You need this, right? Now, if you want, think of it like this. If you want burst 2, you need whatever is in front of it. If you want burst 3, you need whatever is in front of it, right? And then you need whatever is in front of that, right? So I'm sure I explained it very well. And stuff like that. Again, when it comes to team building, I can't really tell you guys what characters to put on your team because I don't know in terms of like thing, right? Now, obviously, I guess I can help here, right? In terms of what type of characters do you want in your team, like regardless of their burst. You probably want to have, how I think like is the best way to go about it, is 1 support, 1 healer, 2 main DPS, and then a sub DPS. Essentially. So for example, your number 1 burst healer, right? Pepper and Rupee, or not Rupee, Rapunzel. Pepper and Rapunzel are my 2 healers, right? I always put Pepper on my team, so my healer is covered, right? My burst 2 unit is usually going to be a sub DPS or just another supporter in the game, right? So that's where Senti or Rupee comes in, right? Mainly Rupee, she's more of a DPS than Senti. Senti is obviously more a support. Rupee's a support too, but she, like, in terms of damage, it just does more than Senti, right? So I could have both of them on my team, or I can have one. It doesn't matter, right? But this would be my, sub DPS, and then this would be my supports, and then my burst 3. Usually burst 3s are the damage dealers, would be my damage dealers, right? You could have 2 healers on your team. I know a lot of people are like, especially in like endgame, they have their teams like this. It's not like this, but like they would have Pepper and Rapunzel, just so you have extra heal, right? More heal, the more you're gonna stay alive, essentially, right? But then you're going to want to take off like a sub DPS. So you're probably going to want to have, if you have 2 healers, you're going to want to have probably 2 healers, a support, and then 2 DPS, right? So I'd put Senti. I'd probably put Rupee on my team still. And then my 2 DPS would be like my pilgrims or whatever, right? And then obviously, again, you have to go through skills to figure it out completely. But essentially, that is how you want to build your teams, right? So to sum it up quickly, you must have at least a burst 1 character on your team in order to activate any ultimates in this game, right? That's 1. Remember that. You must have a burst 1 character on your team to activate any ultimates, right? In order to activate any burst 3 ultimates, you have to have a burst 2 and a burst 1, right? You can have a team of just burst 1 and 2, but it's kind of a waste because burst 3 characters are the main DPS of this game, right? There's nobody really in burst 2 who's like a main DPS like that, and there's nobody in burst 1 who's a main DPS like that. I mean, I guess Volume is more of a main DPS, right? But they're more like supports and tanks and heals over here on burst 1, right? Like Volume or Noise, yeah, they're mostly like heals or tanks or whatever, or supports, right? They're not really DPS. Like burst 3 is where the DPS are at, right? These are DPSs here, right? So yeah, keep that in mind. And then again, in terms of how you want to build your team, you could have, it's up to you, but I would prefer, or I would recommend a healer, sub DPS, support, and then 2 DPS. Healer, sub DPS, support, or 2 DPS. Or you could have 2 supports, 2 DPS, and a healer. That's also recommended highly. So, again, that's up to you guys completely how you want to build your team. I can't really make it up for, like, make your team for you guys. But I'm sure if you join the Discord for Nikke, like the official Discord server, there's people who can help you with your teams and stuff like that. Or you can also go to the website, Paidway. I forgot what it's called. If I remember, I'll put it in the description. So remember that. But hopefully this video was helpful. If it was, like, let me know if I missed anything. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.